Good afternoon, Selena, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. To begin, could you please introduce yourself and briefly outline your academic and professional background?
Good afternoon. My name is Sarena Zu, and I recently graduated from a Master of Science in Economics and Management of Government and International Organizations at Bocconi University, with a thesis focusing on the effect of conflict and unrest on renewable energy deployment. I also did at Bocconi University a Bachelor in Economics and Social Sciences.
So, what motivated you to study the relationship between conflict and renewable energy deployment?
What motivated me is the fact that the energy sector actually accounts for approximately 75% of global greenhouse gas emission. So the transition to renewable energy is one of the fundamental priorities right now. However, this transition is being challenged by increasing geopolitical tensions, such as the war in Ukraine or the conflicts in the Middle East, which create an uncertain environment for this transition. At the same time, the empirical literature that studies this relationship is limited, and most studies focus on perception-based geopolitical risk measures that capture mainly external threats. What I wanted to do was using real-world data, capturing both internal and external instability. Therefore, I used the conflict and unrest sub-index developed under the geopolitical risk index of Professor Colli and Mallarino.
And from your analysis, how do conflict and political instability affect the deployment of renewable energy?
So my analysis is focusing on a global sample of 136 countries over the time from 2009 to 2023. What I found is actually the fact that the conflict and unrest index is not a statistically significant predictor of renewable energy supply. However, this result should be not interpreted as the non-existence of this relationship, but it must be interpreted as a context specific relationship between conflict and renewable energy deployment. It might represent this difficulty of detecting a uniform effect across a heterogeneous sample of countries, like the one that we have, as countries may respond differently to conflict and unrest. In some cases, countries may accelerate this renewable energy deployment. In other cases, there might be a severe disruptions.
And considering that, how does this relationship vary across different country and contexts?
So these null results point to the fact that countries actually respond differently to conflict and instability. A uniform response, as I said, was not detected on a global level, and this is consistent with the previous literature. My findings, therefore, suggest that it would be important, for example, focusing on these subsample analyses by grouping countries by, for example, their income, regions, or their dependence on energy imports, and study how this relationship can actually vary in this country context.
Good point. And do conflicts tend to slow down the energy transition, or can they also accelerate it in some cases?
So this is again depending on the context. What's relevant is that according to the literature, we have two main mechanisms. So from one side, we have the energy security mechanism, according to which countries seek to, in a certain sense, reduce their dependence on imported fossil fuels. And therefore, in this case, they accelerate the transition. And this is, for example, what happened in Europe after the Ukraine war started. But at the same time, we also have this other channel that has been studied in the literature, which is the disruption channel. The disruption channel could manifest, for example, through different mechanisms. The most immediate one is infrastructure destruction or the destruction of supply chains. Or, for example, we have the fiscal disruptions and the disruptions in the financial market. So we have different channels in which we could actually find this negative mechanism as well.
And instead, from a policy perspective, what are the main implications of your findings for governments and international institutions?
So my findings actually found that, for example, we have some structural and economic variables that affect this relationship and the deployment of renewable energy. So according to the findings from the analysis, I formulated 4 policy recommendations. The first one is that in times of conflict, we cannot have blanket policies to promote renewable energies, as results suggest that all the interventions and policies should be more context specific and tailored to each country situation. The second policy recommendation is the fact that the negative sign of the GDP suggests that when we have economic growth, the renewable energy supply is being outpaced by the total energy demand. So governments should be able to decouple this economic growth from this fossil fuel expansion. The third policy recommendation is the carbon intensity. Is the fact that carbon intensity is an important structural barrier against the renewable energy transition. So we should have policies that try to overcome this structural barrier, especially in carbon intensive economies. And the fourth is the fact that trade openness was found to be a driver of renewable energy deployment, and institutions should try to prioritize policies that promote trade, which could promote the technology transfer between the different countries.
And always talking about policy, what types of policy measures could help to mitigate the negative effects of conflicts on renewable energy deployment?
So what I did in my analysis was also testing 2 other specific mechanisms, which are moderation mechanisms, and I tested the role of public debt and financial development to see their effect on these disruption channels, especially the fiscal and financial one. The finding, however, suggests that this negative effect of conflict, if it exists, in this case, is not easily mitigated through these moderation variables, as we do not find a significant effect. More future avenues of research, for example, could be focusing on the role of trade in mitigating this negative effect, because as we have seen, it's one of the primary drivers of renewable energy deployment.
Okay, and looking ahead, how do you see the interaction between geopolitics and the energy transition evolving at the global level?
So this transition and this relationship could actually bring some risk and also some opportunities. So on the risk side, for example, we have this disruption of global supply chains. Renewable energy manufacturing actually rely a lot on these supply chains, especially for critical materials, rare earths, such as lithium, for example, or cobalt or copper. So this could be a big risk for the transition, especially if we have this geopolitical instability in countries that are rich and are key in the value chains for rare earths. At the same time, we also have a big opportunity, which is this energy security side. As countries might try to invest more in the development of renewable energies to reduce this dependence on imported fossil fuels. What's important is the institutional framework in this case. It's important that governments are able to sustain this momentum that we have on the green energy transition, even in times of conflict. And we should actually be focusing on promoting and continue promoting the green energy transition. Also, for example, through policies, as we mentioned before, regarding trade and promotion of trade and technology transfer.
Perfect. So thank you very much, Salena, for your time and for sharing your valuable insight with us. We truly appreciate your contribution.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to expose my thesis to you.